All right, Clavon, you ready to go?
I'm ready, my brother. Here we are. We live. We live. Dan, you looking good, man. I know you're out there in Seattle, Washington.
Yeah, traveling
Uh,
this week. A lot of
yeah,
exciting things going on.
yeah, man. Hey, man, busy guys. You're making it happen. Listen, guys, welcome to another exciting episode of Uncommon Men. I'm Coach Clavon. I got my partner on the side of me here, Mr. Dan Putnam. Hey, guys, episode 3. We got a great guest for you tonight. Let me just set the stage. If you're viewing this from our YouTube channel, hey guys, please like and subscribe to the channel. Be a part of the family. Be a part of the movement. Uncommon Men. It's real. It's live. We're happening. If you're chiming in from our Facebook page or any other outlet, just make sure you like the broadcast, guys. Share it. Share the information. Let's spread the word. This uncommon movement is happening now, and we are fired up and excited. Hey, Dan, before we bring on our guests, can we take a moment and I know I kind of did it last week, but I wanted to hear from you. Hey, just a quick overview of what this uncommon movement is about and what this broadcast is about before we bring on our guy, George.
Yeah, Clavon, it's really simple. We're creating a movement for all males 16 and up, and we have one simple goal in mind, and that's to help every single male that's driven and wants a change to be able to live the life of their dreams, to be able to have the success. And the purpose of this podcast is to interview every single week what we would call uncommon men, people that are in that top 1% businessmen, people in health and nutrition and all these different things. And one of the things that I know for sure is that a true success principle is success leaves clues. So our goal every single week is to leave a bunch of clues there. And we're just about to have our first month under our belt next week. Again, we're excited to be doing this for the next several decades. And just like we talked a little bit, we've chose to interview successful people, get some hints, get some, just some secrets. And I think what you're going to see as we go on 10, 20, 30, 50 episodes, you're going to start to see a lot of things in common.
Yeah.
And it's just like we've discussed. If we were doing the opposite, if we were interviewing very unsuccessful people, I think within the first 5, 10, 20 episodes, you're also going to see a lot of things in common.
Right.
It really, the secret to success really is not that big of a secret. It's finding people that are having success in something that you want to do, which again, almost no matter what you want to do in life, there's already people that have been there, people that are doing that. Again, we're in 2023, almost about to round the corner into 2024. There is zero reason to go a 5, 10, 15, 20-year grind. There's too many clues with social media and basically the entire world at our fingertips, 8 billion people that we can get in touch with for free. There's never been a time like this in history. And so we're just trying to help as many people as possible take advantage of it. Again, one simple goal. We're going to help every single male move from the herd into the top 1% in 5 areas. We focus on really 2 main areas, which is health and fitness and finances, specifically residual income. And then the next 2 are kind of how we get there. Personal development and accountability. And then the 5th thing is just something I think everybody should do, and that's giving back. Whether it's time, whether it's money, whether it's a combination of everything. I just think that part of our responsibility as human beings on this earth is to make it a better place, help others, give back, and that's really what we're creating an entire movement around these 5 things.
Yeah. Great mission statement. Great focus, great campaign. And I tell you, it's an honor to be a part of this because I believe so many people are going to be touched by the uncommon movement. So with that being said, it's really an honor and a distinction to bring up our first guest, or our guest for tonight, the CEO of Ingenuity Beverages. Very renowned gentleman, Mr. George Ho. Can we bring you up, my brother? How you doing, George?
Hey, fantastic, brother. Appreciate you having me on.
Hey, listen, it's a pleasure. To have you on is to mean that you exemplify what it is to be an uncommon man, an uncommon male. You exemplify that with all your great accomplishments. As a businessman, as a father and family man. But we want to just dial it back. I'm going to throw you a pitch right off the bat, and we just want to get a little insight on your background, if you wouldn't mind. Who is George? Tell us a little bit about where you grew up and what led you into the world of entrepreneurship and success. But just take your time. We just want to get a little deep dive into your background.
Yeah, man, I appreciate it. I was born in Taiwan, and then my parents sacrificed a lot to get us out here in the United States. And I grew up in Durham, North Carolina. And at a young age, I was introduced to a really big company that everybody's heard of, Amway. I wasn't really successful at a young age, but I met really, really iconic entrepreneurs. Bill Brett. I mean, all for different types of big type of Amway distributors, Dexter, Yeager, and on. And I just found at a young age that they had residual income. They were able to live a lifestyle that I couldn't imagine. And then that's what led me on to, travel on to entrepreneurship.
Awesome. I know Dan's got some great questions for you, but if we could just kind of piggyback off of that, really quick. You're married. I heard you, having fun with your son in the background. Just marriage, life, children. Just a little bit about George.
I have one son. He's my concentration right now. I have full custody of him. I'm trying to. One of the things you'll realize is that you don't have to grind if you get into leverage. Can you leverage obviously technology? However, one thing for sure is this, that if you're really passionate about it, and if you're in the manufacturing, okay, if you're manufacturing, you still have to grind because you have to produce products, tangible products for people all across the world. And sometimes that goes off balance. It goes off balance. And I realized I didn't focus as much time as I needed for my son. So now I'm putting a lot more time to help him with attitude and insights and just grit. The same things that, the essence of what you guys are doing on this podcast right now, to quit as many people as possible into this tribe that regardless of the mentors or lack of mentors they have locally, they can attach on to you and find an affinity to get through the hardships and figure out what the right path is for them.
That's strong.
Awesome. And just a little bit of background, Clavon. George is one of the first people that I started working with when I was 18, 19 years old, just getting started in network marketing. And so over the last 30 plus years, he's one of my favorite people. I really kind of the best of the best. So I'm going to try and get some secrets out from him and some of the things that I've personally noticed that I think kind of has attributed to a lot of his success and really just have a good conversation. So a couple things that I kind of want to cover, George. So when you guys started in Amway, what age was that?
15 and a half, 16 or something.
So,
I had to go to night owls, free enterprise days and weekends, all kinds of stuff.
Yeah. And so early and so just that personal development, that personal training, you just kind of grew to and saw the residual income. Can you explain to people what is residual income? A lot of people aren't that familiar with network marketing and creating leverage and stuff like that. But what's the difference between residual income and just like a salary or something like that?
Well, obviously, residual income is income coming into your bank account, every single day, every single week, every single month that comes all the time. And obviously, you can do it two ways. First way you can do it is by building a sales network or a sales funnel or some type of business that's generating income for you. And the second way is that once you generate the income, then you take that income and then you do investments. You put in the investments in different type of businesses and let that earn money for you also. So those are the two types of residual incomes that I know of.
Right. And it really has a lot to do with leverage. I talk to people a lot about there's three basic things that you can leverage. You can leverage time, you can leverage money, and you can leverage effort. And so a perfect example of leveraging time and money is an investment, just like what you were saying. When I was 18 years old, actually one of the first courses I took, it was actually so my first class as a student was called Intro to Investments. And on the first day of school, they handed out a piece of paper that said how to retire a millionaire. And it had different age brackets. And it basically showed how much you would have to invest every single month, just kind of hoping that you'd get a 10% return. So it was saying that this is if you got a 10% annual return. And I still remember at 18, you had to put aside $75 a month for 47 years in order to accumulate $1 million by the time you're 65. And obviously, the older you get, the less time you have. So now it's going to take more money. So the whole concept of residual income is creating leverage. And there's a lot of different businesses, and we'll talk about a few of them here tonight. But really, so you got started kind of into that type of business with Amway, and then several other companies. And I remember, I don't remember the exact year. I think it was probably somewhere between 1990, maybe 1995-ish. There was a company that you had introduced me to called I think Prepaid Utilities, and it was kind of interesting. I just kind of want to get into this story just a little bit. I don't not necessarily about the company or anything like that, but I remember you took a little bit of a pivot back then. So going from just straight distributor and then getting into traditional business and things like that. Will you talk just a little bit about that time? Because I don't remember everything that you did. I remember that from prepaid utilities, then you got into some manufacturing, some magnetic like insoles and mattress pads and different things like that.
Sure. Yeah, obviously I started with sales, and I think that's a critical component that that you need to address and try to strengthen on your entrepreneurship process. And then what happened is that there was a company in Tennessee that owed me some commissions in arrears. So I went up there and found out that they didn't have the money. They told me to come back the next week because an investor is coming in from Florida. So I came back the next week, and when I was talking to the investor after about an hour and a half talking to him about the grand vision of this company and what we can do to really grow the company, he just looked at me and said, "Who the heck are you?" And I said, "I'm a sales rep." And he says, "Well, I'll put the money in if you come up and help to run the company." And then that pivoted into becoming the biggest magnetic mattress pad manufacturer back in the late 90s, beginning 2000. But then that time period is different from the time period now. You see now, like, beds are ubiquitous. Advertising for all different type beds were ubiquitous. At that time, Tempur-Pedic was just getting started, and barely anybody knew about magnetic therapy, but a lot of golfers are using it. And there was a company called Nikken was doing really, really well in California from Japan. But 9/11 hit, and then that's when I realized that it's not what you can buy, but what you can service. And we had about 150,000 square foot operation manufacturing mattress pads. And that's when I got into, that's when I scaled down from high ticket items to more affordable repeat items. That's my focus. That was my pivot point, just because after 9/11, a lot of people didn't want to buy temporarily really expensive items.
And what were the cost of those? The main thing that you were selling, and what was the strategy that you used to advertise and get the word out?
Dan, you're always trying to emphasize how dinosaurs we are. So back then, We had a call center. We were mailing out over 1 million postcards a month. We were doing over 6,000 to 7,000 free dinner seminars a month, and we invited targeted demographic people who had over $35,000 income. People had a credit card. People had a car. People had a home, and then we invited them, and also age bracket 45 and above, and we invited them to a dinner seminar to explain to them the benefits of magnetic therapy. And now more people know about magnetic therapy, but probably most people know about PEMF, pulse electric magnetic therapy. That's going really, really strong.
And so how long did you do that? That time frame was from mid 90s to early 2000s, right after 9/11, or?
Probably about 5-6 years. And then after, again, 9/11, I mean, just the cost was really, really high. So I liquidated that business, and I went back into direct sales and consulting again.
Yeah. And what would you say the things that you learned from that type of business compared to just the network marketing type, where network marketing, you're just kind of your own boss. Obviously you're representing a company's products or services, but you kind of set your own time, you set your own marketing strategies and things like that. So what was the main differences in like big manufacturing? How many employees did you guys have at that time, and things like that, going from basically just yourself to now all of a sudden overseeing 100,000 square foot manufacturing and however many employees that entails, and seminars all over, sales reps all over, and the the different types of headaches, I guess, that you had in traditional business compared to setting up your own, just distribution networks all over the world, where you have a company's infrastructure that takes care of all of the big, movements.
Yeah, well, I mean, bottom line is debt service was over $70,000 a month just to get our electricity turned on in the bigger building. We had to pay over $60,000. We had over 120 employees there. We had call center worked 2 shifts. We had about 26 sales reps that's traveling around the country. So I think as an entrepreneur, especially if you think you're capable, right? And you're young, you think you can do everything. And in some ways you can. In some ways you can. And those are the time periods that you have, maximum testosterone. You don't have anything holding you back. You don't have a family. That's the perfect time to really delve in to go after capital formation. But what I want to impart upon you is this, that you need to figure out what type of entrepreneur you're the strongest at. Are you great at sales? Are you great at the technology side? Are you great at team building? Are you great at setting boundaries for manufacturing? I mean, those are the things you need to figure out what you're great at and what you like, okay? Because I did it because my dad always told me from a young age, he lived through World War II. He's been by himself since he was 13. Does that make sense? So he just always told me, there's a Chinese saying, 吃苦. That means eat bitterness. So that I was inculcated at a young age, you have to really grind really hard. And what I'm saying to you as an entrepreneur, especially if you're young, you can leverage technology now. You can work hard, but you can use technology and go on a different path, and you can go faster. You can go faster. Now, it does not mean that, hey, if your family is in plumbing, you're really a great plumber or a great electrician, you can't make money. Yes, you can make money. You can build out the organization. You can do all those things. You can also use technology to build your business so your business stands out among the competition. But regardless of the tangents I took, what is imperative is that you need to find out what you're strong in and do what you're strong in.
Mm.
And with that, all that developing and stuff like that, what would you say your strong points were as an entrepreneur and just as a person?
Seeing the vision, sales, personal communication, and a lot of it, I will tell you, a lot of it was from getting into Amway, listening to the tapes of the week, and looking at all these self-help. We had cassettes back then, okay, just to try to reprogram you, because the education. One thing that we all got to agree on is that the education system in the United States is not optimal. Okay, it's not optimal. Why is it not optimal? Well, it's not optimal because if you look at it, we're not number 1 to 5 in mathematics or English, and competition across the world. Why is that? Because fundamentally it's not working. And then if you're an entrepreneur, it doesn't really teach you how to sell. It doesn't teach you, financial, like how to read finances. It doesn't teach you like the bedrock of how to start your own business, which in my opinion is super important. Because now what we have, if you look at the economy at large, is that we have fewer banks. You understand? We have fewer banks now. We have fewer small and mom and pop businesses. It was destroyed by, obviously, COVID. It was destroyed by consolidation. What we have in the United States, fortunately, or unfortunately, depending on what station you are in life, is that there's less competition. There's less competition on the older type businesses, okay? Therefore, in my opinion, is that we need to radically change our education system to really, really build out startups. What we are fantastic on is that we have freedoms. We learn in a way that's not just rote memory. We don't just, I just got back. I took my son to Japan this year, early on this year. They've got people at knife shops and different businesses that they've been there for 40 years.
Wow.
Do you understand? They got knife shops and sushi shops that's over 150 years old, 200 years old. Now, in one respect, that's incredible because that's the pattern of quality, right? And they do things exactingly. However, at the corollary, on the flip side of that, you don't see AI. You don't see so many patents on the internet. You don't really start in Japan. It starts in the United States, okay? It starts in the United States because we've got a system that allows people to go out there and they don't have the fear of failing. They have all these icons that they see in Silicon Valley, but that's all spread out and decentralized of all these entrepreneurs succeeding every single location. So that gives them the motivation to go out there and make it happen. And a lot of times that is not taught in schools, which hopefully is something that you guys are teaching here in your podcast.
Yeah, I appreciate that. And we're going to get into a couple things here in just a minute. I have 1 or 2 more questions, and then I'll turn it back over to Clavon for a second. But one thing that I noticed, George, just because I've had the pleasure of working with you for several decades, and one of the things that I really learned from you, and just kind of want to get your input on it. I don't remember the year or anything like that, but it was fairly early on when we was working together. I remember around Christmas, all of a sudden in the mail, I get these coffee cakes, and I look and see that they were from you. And then it was almost all the time. Then it went from like coffee cakes to jerky. And then still we have kind of an interesting story on the jerky you found in Tennessee and that whole thing that I kind of fell in love with and was always asking, man, can you send some more? And they closed down the shop. And then literally just years later, you went and found the recipe. And then I'm still going to get that recipe one of these days, especially now that you're in Puerto Rico. But one of the things that I really noticed is what made you decide to do that type of a thing? And how did you decide who to send it to? Because I know that you were creating those relationships with everybody that not every single person you was working with, but just those little things made a huge difference. And that's one of the things I took from you. I never did that for even the people I was working with close. I didn't think to send them like coffee cakes or jerky, or find out what they want and get the Tennessee moonshine and all the different things that you've sent over the years. But it's something that I really appreciated, and I know that it helped you build a lot of good relationships over the years.
Yeah, I think again the genesis a lot of times is from my parents. So my dad had a Chinese restaurant, and then for school I was always bringing like hot sour soup and dumplings and egg rolls and egg drop soup and all different type of foods to the teachers, because you know, regardless of AI, regardless we hit singularity, the Neuralink, and all these other things that's coming on, you know, at essence of being a human, got some passions. One of the passions is eating, right? The taste buds firing off. And it really makes a difference, because regardless of the guy is, you know, a negative net worth, you know, $1 million net worth, $1 billion net worth, those experiences of good eating with good, really interesting people, it just, it kind of like circumvents the blood-brain barrier, we would say a lot for nutrition, and gets right into the molecular, like DNA or the hard drive of our soul. So yeah, that's something that I do. Right now I do a lot of hot pots, just because my dad passed 4 years ago, and now I make the hot pots. So people are really happy when they come to see me at the hot pots and the Korean barbecues.
Yeah, and is that something that you've noticed a lot of success with, is just sending out those gifts and you know, building those relationships with people, as opposed to just, you know, straight business, kind of building out that friendship?
I think, I mean, at the end of the day is this: if you take the precept that you would help your family out before you would help other people out, it's because you care about your family the most. You care about the family the most. And then hopefully, God willing, your family reciprocates. They watch your six, right? So if that is the premise that you run on, you know, those are the things you need to do. You have to be high touch. You have to be high touch, because you know, more and more everybody can leverage internet, but it's that belly to belly interaction, or that the package that they receive. Does that make sense? That they see it's really different. Especially as I get older and you meet people that are higher socioeconomically, or higher in whatever a position they are than you. A lot of times they have unlimited funds, or they're just deluge with contacts that want something from them, because they perceive that they can network for them and help them manifest their goals. But it's that little high touch thing that you do that separates you, and you got to find out what it is for you, and then that's your trademark, that's your calling card.
Yeah, and I really want to emphasize that, Clavon. It's one of the things that I noticed. Like, I remember when I was first working, and I was always very strategic with systems and things like that. But it's one of the things that I really learned from George, and still try and focus on to this day. And I still remember some of the people that I introduced him to that used to always work with me. And then I would call them like 5 years later, and they're doing something with George. And then I basically, to get him in my business, I had to call and try and get George to come over, because he'd bring him over easier than I would, because he was so good at creating relationships with the right people, kind of identifying who the people that can move the needle are, and then create that relationship with them. And he's probably as good as anybody that I've ever seen in the industry of network marketing and just traditional business at doing that. So I really want to emphasize that to all of our people listening and chiming in here, is find the people that can help you get where you want to be, and you know, reach out to them, send them cards, send them different things. I read a book called The Art of Better Selling by Tom Hopkins, and I've probably actually incorporated as much or more things from that book, and then also from watching people like George and other people that I've worked with. And it's just these little things that make all the difference. Kind of like Jeff Olson's book, The Slight Edge. It really isn't like the difference between people having massive success and the people struggling, it's not as big a differences as you might think. It's kind of just like these little things over and over that can end up making all of the difference. And so that's just a ton of things that I've noticed, George, that you do phenomenally. And there's no question why you've had the success that you've had. But that's something that I, noticed early on, just getting these packages in the mail, having no clue who they are from. And then all of a sudden I see it's like, oh, wow, that's awesome. And so I want to thank you for that and the example that you've been in my business and what I've gone on to do since then, when we first started out at like 18, 19 years old. But what we want to do, George, is with Uncommon Movement, there's really 5 key areas that we're focused on, helping people improve their lives. And I think as human beings, probably our 2 most valuable assets are our health and our time. And that's why we focus so much on residual income, so that you can have the time to, spend with your kids if you really need to focus on those things, or you can have the time to, do whatever it is that you want. But having all the time in the world doesn't do a whole lot of good without health and fitness. Has that come into play at all for you? Was there ever a time that you're so busy working, traveling, doing all those things that you kind of put your nutrition and your fitness on the back burner, and then had to make the decision, man, I better start focusing on this a little bit more? It's been a grind for me. I can tell you that, to really focus on the health and fitness side as opposed to the finance side. And I find that far too often we just kind of get so focused chasing that dollar that we forget about our own health and fitness and things like that, which, again, our health and our time, I truly believe, are 2 of our most valuable assets.
No, so, I totally concur. I mean, I think at a young age, I was doing like Taekwondo and Muay Thai, and you were doing like Kempo. I saw UFC 3 back in Charlotte. So we were all on this trajectory. And then when I worked out like a massive amount, I ate voraciously, right? And then that appetite continued, even though I didn't work out as much. But I think it's critical that people continue to work out and just carry on that push, because, that's why biohacking is all about. For me, I'm doing more workout. I mean, nothing like the kind of workout I did before. My workout more likely now is just more lower weights, but keeping fit, yoga, stretching. Just I don't want to get hurt. But in addition, what's also happened is that, taking blood tests, taking hormone tests and things of that nature, and just changing my diet around, I've been able to radically, change my triglycerides and a whole bunch of other things. So it's never too late. To change your habits of sleep, change your habits of working out and eating. But number 1 is actually sleep. And a lot of us grinders just think that you don't need any sleep. And it is true, when you're younger, you don't need as much sleep, but it does catch up with you. And if you can optimize your sleep, I will tell you that mentally you'll function so much better. You'll make fewer mistakes.
So is there anything you do specifically, anybody that you follow for sleep and biohacking type stuff, or do you have any specific routines, morning routines, that just keep you engaged?
Well, I mean, so some of the things I do is, obviously I got a 8 sleep system. It's really cool. It keeps it cool, and then you can turn it on, and it'll decrease your temperature at nighttime, so you get optimal hibernation sleep. And then it'll increase your temperature a little bit about an hour before you wake up. So that's really good. Aura ring is really, really good. And meditation is also very good. But bottom line is this, that you try to decrease stress and try to get a repetitive pattern. Those things are important also. I never had huge problems with sleep. It's just now I'm trying to optimize my sleep better because, I'm 50 years old. Okay.
Yeah.
I know what it felt like. I know what it felt like when I was 18. And now it's like a lot of us do sacrifice our bodies to try to hit capital formation. And then we realize, how important our bodies are later in life. And then we fight for it. But I also emphasize one more thing. There's a lot of things going on. When Dan and I got started in business, debt in the United States was very, very low. You understand? Debt in the United States is very, very low. And I remember the time that, our gas was like 70 cents a gallon, 60 cents a gallon, maybe even cheaper. So everything is inflated now. So what am I saying to you? If you're an entrepreneur, regardless of what your age is, you really need to put in the time and you need to put in the effort to build your own business. Okay? Because it is critically important that you form as much capital, earn as much money as possible, because we printed 40% of all existing dollars in the last 3 years.
Wow.
You understand what I'm saying? And that is not stopping. That is not stopping. So what am I telling you? Is that DC with its monetary acts is favoring people with capital. So if you don't have capital now, the only way to earn it is to develop your own business and leverage technology. I think is one of the easiest ways to do it.
For sure. For sure.
Yeah. Good stuff. Good stuff. Hey, I'll tell you, I'm picking up what you're putting down, George. I'm jotting down some good notes here, and some really, really good stuff. But thank you. I want to just ask you just 2 or 3 questions based on what I'm hearing, this evening, especially when we talked about the education, like the education deficit, that we all agree on here in the States. So, when you were in networking, when you were in corporate space, CEO space, because of that deficit, do you find accountability being a major tool in your leadership toolbox? How important has it been to hold staff or the leaders that are assigned to you accountable? How have you used accountability to win? Can you speak a little bit about that?
Yeah, I think a couple things. As I get older, I figure out that again, as I said earlier on, I'm really delved into sales. On accountability, I'm not the best manager. I'll tell you, I'm not the best manager. Having a lot of employees, you just got to deal with a lot of headaches, okay? Because a lot of people have their own feelings, and if they're slighted, obviously they can go sideways, and you got to build systems. So how did I keep accountability? I kept accountability primarily for myself because I knew I had a lot of employees that needed to get paid. And there was no worse feeling in my life than when I was a younger guy, maybe about 29 of age. And then the credit card processor called Nova back in Tennessee locked up a couple $100,000 in the Visa account. And I didn't know about it. And we couldn't make payroll about 2 weeks before Christmas. That made me cry and made me go into the bathroom and throw up. So that, like gravity, always pushed me, regardless of what business I was in, to make sure that the employees and the sales reps are paid. All right. Now, what am I saying to you? What I'm saying to you is this, that you need to find out what your managerial skills are. So what does that mean? Hey, do you have really good boundaries with other people? If you don't have really good boundaries with other people, you can still succeed with teams. How do you succeed with teams? Succeed in sales team. Because in a sales team, everybody's got to hunt. And if you don't hunt, you're kicked off the team. Do you understand? You don't have to fire people. They fire themselves. So if you build a real traditional business in a team, then you have to get very, very familiar letting people go. And I've hired hundreds of people, and I've let go of also hundreds of people. So those are the experiences that you need to figure out for accountability. And another thing I think would be great if you do at a younger age is you journal. You journal, right? Because as you get older and you're able to hit a really strong spurt of capital formation, then you're going to invest. And if you're going to invest in businesses, you're going to invest in stocks, private equity, seed startups, venture capital, crypto. I don't give a crap what you're investing in. You know what? You're going to make mistakes. You're going to make mistakes because we're emotional beings. And if you're good at sales, it doesn't mean you're going to be good at investing. All right? Investing is its own beast. So now I try to keep a journal when I'm doing investing, and I'm telling you that it's also good for you to keep a journal just as you're building the business, the internet business, or getting teams up, sales teams up, managerial teams up, logistical teams up. All these things you need to write up, and you're going to learn more from your mistakes than your wins. And during those really deep times of, really crappiness, write down those feelings of what you think caused those mistakes so you can not repeat them again. Because the definition of insanity is just repeating mistakes over and over again and think you're going to have a new result.
Well, Clavon, that's kind of interesting because one of the more successful people I know in the industry, I was meeting with probably just a couple months ago when we was in Houston, Clavon. And I was talking to her, and she was saying that she's been an avid journal writer for decades. Every single morning, without fail, writes in her journal. And she said that one of the times, and this is somebody who's made tens and tens and tens of millions of dollars building distribution networks all over the world, one of the more successful people I've ever met. And right now at one of the valleys that you kind of go through, those peaks and valleys. And it was interesting. She said she went back and was reading her journals from the times that she was, starting off and launching her businesses, having more success than she's ever had. And she said that she couldn't believe all the things that she forgot. A lot of times we think we're doing everything that we did before. And if we don't write any of those down, she didn't realize that she really wasn't even close to doing what she was doing when she was having all that success. And I've never been a journaler. I remember probably the only time I've ever even written down in a journal is one of my grade school teachers made us journal every single day in elementary school, maybe like 5th grade, I think it was, for one quarter or something that I had this teacher. And that's the only time I've ever journaled in my life. And I just started again because I was talking to all these people and hearing about meditation and affirmations, and I've never been that either. I've never been one to meditate. I've never been a big reader. I've never been into affirmations. I've never been into manifesting. I think I've kind of been into some of that, just never really
owned it.
Like sat there and said, okay, I'm going to manifest this. I think obviously I was thinking positive and things like that, but it was interesting. I really just started focusing on like meditation and manifesting things. And I started to realize that I'd come up with all these great ideas when I'm meditating. And then literally the same day, I'd be talking to somebody, some of my employees and stuff like that, and trying to go back and remember this great idea that I came up with that morning while meditating. And I couldn't remember sometimes, even the same day. And so I just started keeping a little journal of when I'm meditating and manifesting the things that come to my mind, just kind of writing those down, because it's crazy how you can have this thought pop into your head. It's like, man, that's a good idea. And if you don't write it down, you don't tell somebody right away, literally like 6-7 hours later, you're on doing different things you don't remember anymore. So that's interesting. I never thought about journaling until just like literally within the last month. I've just started kind of focusing on that. So it's interesting that you brought that up, because it's not anything I had ever done previously, but I can see just a massive value in doing that.
Yeah,
because we all repeat patterns. We all repeat patterns, right? And we think it's going to be different this time. So if you don't journal yourself and then enact on changes, you're going to repeat the same pitfalls. Another way to do it if you don't have a journal is that you have a mastermind and you have cohorts or teammates or tribes that complement you. Does that make sense? And then you work together on a goal, and then they'll watch your 6 and they'll know the patterns that you repeat. They know the patterns that you repeat, and then they'll catch you. And then they'll say, hey, I don't know if that's the best move. This is why. And you did it before. And that's the way we all up our games together. And it's important. If you're here and you're 16 or younger or 20, it's so important that you find your own little tribe of people that's, moving on the same time, because I was really lucky to find Dan. Like, I was really lucky to find Dan when we were both like in our teenage years, because we kept in contact with each other, and we kept pushing each other. We kept pushing each other. We kept talking to each other. Dan's opened tons of freaking doors for me. Dan is a very, very gracious guy and also a modest guy. We won't list all the companies, but Dan has been instrumental, jugular, in originating, I'm telling you, multi-billions of dollars in this industry. Absolutely. And I with the B. He won't say it, and a lot of times people won't even admit it because they have so much ego in the deal, but it was his idea to originate the product. It was his indefatigable spirit that moved organizations to change their compensation, change their product, change their structure, change until the business came up. And then obviously they took all the accolades, and sometimes doesn't give them the credit. So these are all the things that you have to learn, right? One of the things that Dan and I learned also is that we give ideas very, very quickly to people, and we think sometimes they're going to reciprocate. And guess what? Sometimes they do, but there are two types of people in this world. They're givers and they're takers. And sometimes you're going to meet a taker. So as you escalate your game and your a value that you give to other people, you may have to get lawyers to help protect you. Do you understand what I'm saying? These are all the things that you have to learn on your journey in your business.
Wow. Real powerful stuff, George. Real good stuff. I'll tell you what, George, I just got one or two more questions for you and pass it back to Dan. And this one here is just like your opinion on a concept. Getting back to finances. I mean, you understand residual income, you understand leverage, you understand passive income. And so, with the uncommon movement, George, we love the AI space. I hear you talk about sales teams. And so what do you think about the idea that, we believe in the next year or two, most functional households around the country, maybe around the world, will be paying a subscription for a strong, a good AI, product, whether parents for their students, for their children who are in high school or college, entrepreneurs, as you mentioned, small business owners that want to scale, everyday folks, And so what do you think about the idea of subscription-based business, like leading you to residual income? I mean, because we plan on using, AI technology as a big part of the uncommon movement.
I mean, I think AI is undeniable, right? So if you don't have like a gigamind so you can curate the information from ChatGPT and all these other GPT systems, then you got to find a system that's curating it for you. Does that make sense? Then you got to get a subscription. You got to learn as fast as possible. Because what I'm saying to you is that this is a seismic shift in business. It's just a seismic shift in business that's coming online. We do not know all the ripples that's coming out of AI. We do not know what exactly happened with Sam Altman and Q-Star. We do not know all the things that's going on and how fast this AI is going to come. So what does that mean to you? It means that you can't sit flat-footed. You've got to be the entrepreneur. And that's one thing I always applaud Dan. Dan is always able to peek right on the side of the walls to see what the next trend is going to be. And if you have that skill set and you're able to set up a system, because it's so imperative, it is so imperative that you go after your dreams right now and build a business before all the value added is already taken by the number one, number two, number three players. You got to build a capital formation now, because what I see going on with CBDCs, with probably universal basic income coming on, to all these different aspects coming on, is that he who has the capital is going to be able to make astronomical gains. So if you do not have the current capital to multiply and play in that game, you know what? You need to get on this AI trend because it's coming faster. We already know that, AI and ChatGPT brought in more users in the first week than any other platform ever. That's just a small hint. It's going to make so many things easier, but it's also going to disrupt so many labor pockets. Okay, so if you are able to figure out crib notes, okay, the crib notes, and a system that can show you the way of figuring out what sector of AI for you to make monetary gains from, you got to build that business.
Love it. Love it. Love it. Hey, George, let me close out with this question here, because you're very, very impressive. Like I said, you are the definition of an uncommon gentleman. And these interviews are based on what, the phrase that, Dan uses every episode, that success leaves clues. And so with you, I'm listening very carefully, and you've created some success, and you speak about, like, your dad, the influence that your father had, with you and on you. You mentioned some of the things he shared with you as far as, swallow the bitterness and things that really kind of prepared you. And I was wondering, when you're sharing things with your son, are there any major differences? I look at the generational, gaps between your dad, your life, your son's life. Are you giving your son the same messages? And are there some you're definitely not giving him? Are there some that have been enhanced that you're giving him? Listen, if you could just take your time and just bring us into that world of how you're sharing with the next generation what your dad shared with you to make you so successful from a cultural perspective, just helping you be the man you are, knowing that you want to duplicate that onto your son.
Dan's got a great wife. He's got great kids. I mean, his mom, Lynn, his dad, Dick. I mean, just incredible stories, right? So me, I just have one son, and he's very artistic. He doesn't like a lot of things. He doesn't like to follow a lot of things I tell him, right? And I think it's just part and parcel of being 16. And a lot of us will not listen to our dads, at least during the teenage years. But what I'm doing is I just show them every single day I'm showing up. Does that make sense? And then that's another thing that I impart on all the listeners. Whatever business that you throw yourself into, you got to be consistent. You got to be consistent. Okay, you got to go after it consistently and put effort in every single day, because that has compounding effects. And as I get to listen to him more and spend more time with him, I understand that he is living in a different environment. He's living in an environment now that a lot of people are saying AI is going to take jobs, and why does it matter to go into college, or why does it matter to go here? And there's some nihilism out there. But I try to inculcate into him that we're all human beings, and we have a heart, we have a soul, and regardless of what AI does, there's going to be room for business, for artists, especially artists, because at the end of the day, artists is going to encapsulate what it means to be human. And I'm just going to end with this. What I'm saying is that, and what Dan said earlier, Dan and I grew up and Dan grew up in like Wyoming and stuff like that, probably in a farm or something. But what I'm saying is this: I grew up in a Chinese restaurant, okay, working 100 hours a week, getting yelled at in Chinese from the workers in the back, getting shipped off to different restaurants at 16 and 15 because my mom wanted to help other restaurants, and crying and all this other stuff because I had to eat bitterness. it's a little different now. I will say it's a little different now for entrepreneurs now. You may not have to do live through those type of difficulties. You can leverage internet to try to do a different path. Okay. But at the end of the day, what I impart upon like all listeners right now is that tough times make tough men. Tough men makes good times. Good times makes soft men. Soft men brings bad times. And fortunately, unfortunately, I don't want to be a doomsday type person, but there's a guy named Kondratov, and he was a Soviet guy, and he told Stalin that it's not the communistic state that's going to make Russia powerful or unpowerful. Everything goes in cycles of like 60 to 80 years. And Stalin didn't like that, threw him in the gulags, and he died. But now it's very well known. So what am I saying to you? We're coming in an age of so much debt, so much weakness around the world. And that's why we're having all these hot wars, cold wars, because if the economy was doing well across the world, if people were not in debt, if people can live and have a family with just one parent working, we wouldn't be having so much division, so much polarization. Do you understand what I'm saying? Yeah. That's why if any of these things make sense to you, I'm trying to tell you, you need to redouble your efforts, because the compression of time is occurring right now, and what you can multiply using AI, using different types of internet systems to build your business. It's the golden age, but the window is going to close very quickly, in my opinion, and you got to go after it and build that and take your stake. Take your stake, manifest your destiny, get your how many ever acres and build that out. And one more other thing I recommend to you as an entrepreneur, okay, is that build your skill sets and try to build a business that's sellable, if you possibly can. That's sellable. Even though you may think that the business is evergreen, it's going to make money forever, ever. You know what? Position yourself in the deal that you have systems. You build out the business that can operate without you, and then you can sell it and make a capital gains event to get you into, I'm sorry if there people who are very religious, to a FU position, okay? Because what you want to do with residual income, what you want to do with capital formation is you need to get yourself to a FU position. That one day, if you don't like your boss, you don't like the position you're in, you don't like the environment or whatever it is, you don't like the the mores or laws in your state or whatever, you can say F you, and you can pick up your family and go to somewhere that you deem better to raise your family. And the only way to escape the matrix is, in my opinion, build your business, build your skill set, and be able to sell out.
Awesome. That's good stuff, buddy. I appreciate that sentiment.
And I can tell you just from watching it, as George talked about, having a tremendous amount of success in building international distribution networks and network marketing, going into manufacturing, going into early on in the phone apps and the games and you know, that type of a concept to build something, sell it, go back into manufacturing, nutritional manufacturing. Big player, I wouldn't say big player, but somebody that very knowledgeable in investments. He's somebody that I call to say, hey, George, is there anything that you're seeing, anything hot in the crypto space, anything hot in this, or what's your opinion on NFTs? What's your opinion on this? Just because I know he's always into those things. I've seen what he's been able to do. And so just in the last maybe 3 or 4 minutes here, George, we've talked a little bit about personal development. Is there anybody that you follow, any book that maybe 1 or 2 books that you've learned the most from, who you follow on social media, just anybody that you kind of go to that's kind of leaving those clues that you've used for so much success?
I mean, I think Dan, both and I have just read so much. Earl Nightingale, Tony Robbins. I mean, obviously you said Hopkins. So many guys that we used to try to rewire our brains. We try to rewire our brains. One of the things I'm going to tell you that I'm spending some time on is I love Kill Tony. I love Kill Tony. All right, because one of the ways that I always marketed the product is I used humor, right? Because my last name is Ho, but I'm not your average Ho, right? So if you can learn how to be humorous at the same time you're doing your presentation, that's another way to disarm things, and that's another way to reset somebody's shield. Because regardless of who you're going to, we all have a shield because we don't want to get ripped off. And using humor now, I think, is a very unique way. And we all have, listen, especially if you're young, you all have these self-imposed deficiencies that you think will hold you back from doing anything the rest of your life. Okay. And on Kill Tony, you see like all different people with all different handicaps, physical handicaps, mental handicaps, whatever handicaps. And they use it, and they're true to themselves. That's the biggest thing I'm going to tell you as an entrepreneur, that whatever you delve into, this is a self-improvement game. You can only go as high as you personally believe you're worth. Do you understand? As you personally believe you're worth. So as you work on the self-improvement from all aspects, the other thing I'll tell you is this: go after the highest competent people that you possibly can, because even though you think they're beyond your reach, everybody's got to get up in the morning. Everybody's got to go to the bathroom. Everybody's got to put their pants on one leg at a time, so you can talk to them. And if you do it,
I recommend doing that, George. Like, what would the recommendation be to go after somebody that's ultra successful? I know that you've done that with some success. I know some of the connections that you've made and the friendships that you have. What do you recommend? I have a recommendation that I always have used, and I just want to, I'll tell mine if it's not the same as yours.
Yeah, it depends on the location. A lot of times I'm meeting them in a conference, right? On an expo. I go to a lot of expos. And if you meet them at a conference, you meet them at an expo, they most likely spoke. So you need to have something in your mind that resonated with your DNA, that they spoke about, that you can build a commonality with. And you go up to them and you tell them how that resonated with you. And because that's specific, they're going to know that's not like a platitude. All right. Another way to look at it is this: that a lot of us is doing, not me personally, but a lot of people, influencers, they're doing YouTube, they're right there on LinkedIn. So you can see their history. So if you can see their history, you can build a connection. Like Hot Wings, right? The Hot Wings guy, he does a stellar job and doing intel, like CIA type intel. And when he talks to a person, it's so disarming. He's not like the other paparazzis or the other journalists that's talking to him. So it just means that you got to do a little bit of schoolwork on the guy that you want to build a rapport with, and then talk about that commonality and talk about your arc of ascension as a similar pattern to his or her arc of ascension, and that you appreciate your time. Can you do me a favor and comment on some things? All right. And if you're local to the person, especially if you're not making that much money right now, maybe you just want to do stuff free for them, and it'd be an intern for them. And there's going to be very, very few people going to turn down a person that's going to do things for free. And now you can learn the inner workings. And once you learn the inner workings of the organization, you're going to realize he is a human being. Okay, he's a human being, not an emperor, not like an almighty or whatever. He has or she has their own foibles, but they have their patterns, the patterns that they execute every single day, that compounds, that allows them to become, the ultra 1% in their aspect of whatever business or field that they're in.
Yeah, I love it. A couple things there that all of it I agree with 100%. But I always had good success with like you said, just kind of complimenting them, telling them a little bit of how much you appreciate what they've done or what you've got out of what they've done. And then I've seen two things. One, kind of asking an opinion, and two, I just saw something the other day from one of the top influencers. I don't remember exactly who it was, but he was saying he literally gets hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of DMs every single day, people sending this, and most of the time it's just stuff that he just kind of ignores. But he said that a couple times that people have really come to him and asked for help. He's been willing to help, and I think that a lot of times just so as human beings, most people are willing to do favors. Most people are willing to help. So if I went to somebody again, I try and follow people that are doing what I want to do, and just say, hey, I really respect all the success you've had, everything that you've been able to do. I'm kind of stuck right here. Do you have any opinions or anything that you would recommend, to help me get out of this? And most of the time, they're going to do it. I'm not asking them for a whole bunch of time and things like that, and then just really value their opinions and actually do what they say and follow up with them. And you can build friendships with people that you never thought that you'd even never talk to, because it is just like you say, they are humans, and you end up being like, man, I never even thought I'd get this guy to respond, and now it's somebody I have his phone number, text back and forth, have communications and things like that. So I think part of it's just having the nerve to go, but instead of wasting their time, just try and see the value that you can bring instead of just asking them for value.
Yeah, always. I mean, build them up. Also, can you ask, can you do me a favor? And works for a lot of people. Just do it with humility, and you have an exact reason. A lot of people help. And then also another thing you'll do is you'll weed out if they're a giver or a taker, right? If you're a giver or a taker, then you'll know what tribe you belong to.
Awesome. And the last thing, before we close out, we try and keep these not too much over an hour. Great information, George. I really appreciate your time. I know you're super busy, and it's a little bit late out there, but what about giving back? What's your thoughts on giving back to the community? Obviously, you're giving people your time and your knowledge right now, which we greatly appreciate. But it's something that I'm really big on. I saw a saying a while back: "Get rich, give back," and it's just kind of one of those things that I try and do all the time. Is give back as much as I can, whether it's time, knowledge, money, combination of everything. What are your thoughts on just the ability to give back?
Sure. I mean, the simple answer is obviously I really believe in Boys and Girls Club. So I donate every single year to the Boys and Girls Club. That's one aspect. The other aspect, I think, is that one of my strengths is just connecting with people. So I meet somebody, I figure out, hey, how can I help you? And then they say this, this, and this. And I'll say, oh, I know this person, and give it to them. You know what I'm saying? Just be free and just develop these relationships, because it builds equity. It builds savings account with them that one day you can ask for something back from them. Does that make sense? So, so just as you keep growing in this business, of course, write people's names down with the emails, telephone numbers, LinkedIn, whatever. You need to get that. You need to get that, because you may have met them and you build a relationship really quickly, and they see that you're a good person. But if you have no way to contact them again, that's a problem. You kind of messed up. Okay. We used to have, when we were older, Rolodexes, but now everything's in the cell phone. So you can have that, and then it's on the cloud. There's really no excuse not to have people connected with you. For
sure. Awesome, George. I really appreciate it. Clavon, anything in closing?
I mean, George, you're phenomenal, man. You're definitely not the average hoe, and I appreciate spending this evening with you. Okay.
One more good one, Clavon, is that he did an audio called "The Chinese Redneck." So that goes along with not your average hoe. I still remember that's something I won't ever forget. And he's used that humor and ability to tell stories and stuff for a long time. But yeah, I remember the Chinese Redneck CD.
No, it's just great, and especially your You're focused on relationships. I just know you're a man of the people, and I know that's one of your secret weapons to moving people to action and having influence over people is that fun personality mixed with, just mastering your trade. So I learned so much tonight. I want to ask everyone, again, don't forget to like this broadcast and share it if you're on our Facebook, social media outlets, and if you're on our YouTube channel. Guys, subscribe, like the content, man, help us share it around the world because we're here to empower everyone, especially males and above, an empowerment movement. Dan, let you have the last word, partner, but this has been a great experience.
Yeah, it really has been, George. Really appreciate it. Make sure and join us next week. We'll have another great guest, and one thing that I've really been thinking about a lot lately is just the phrase "nothing changes if nothing changes," and so I want people to just really think about that. Far too often, we just keep looking for some way that we can just keep doing what we've been doing, and somehow it's gonna, reap different results. As George was saying earlier, that's the exact definition of insanity: continuing to do the same thing and expecting different results. So everybody just remember, nothing changes if nothing changes, and the only way that you can really make massive gains and massive changes in your life is through opportunity. You can't just snap your fingers and all of a sudden everything changes. Opportunity has to be present for change to take place. And so, be watching for that opportunity, be willing to create that opportunity. And again, we want to leave as many clues as we can so that when you find that opportunity, you can take advantage of it and reap the benefits. And as human beings, we're capable of so much. And those are, some things that I really think about is just living up to our capabilities. And that's a big challenge. When you see what people have done throughout time and history, and you realize we had that ability if we would, hone those skills and do the things. So, let's not just settle to be average. Let's not just settle to struggle and just, somehow get through life surviving. Let's make the decision that we're going to exit the herd. We're going to do what it takes to be that one, to be uncommon. And that's what this is all about.
Awesome. All right, champions. Well, everybody around the world, this historic episode 3 is officially over. We will see you guys next week.
All right. Thanks, everybody. Thanks, George.
Bye-bye.